Always good to catch up with Luke. What's up, my man?
Howdy. Good Thursday afternoon to you guys.
To you as well. Always good to catch up, and we are getting to crunch time in the college baseball season. 3 weekends left in the regular season. Good news for Southern Miss. 2 of those 3 weekends are at home. 3 of the final 4 at home. If you go back to last weekend, and we talked with Scott on Monday. What a good week Southern Miss baseball had last week with 5 wins, 2 in the midweek in an area where they had not been very good this year, and then they get the sweep of Arkansas State this past weekend.
Yeah, I felt good about yourself being able to get back above 500 for the season. They ended 6-5 in the midweeks, and just this weekend just really overpowered Arkansas State. I know you talked to Scott about how good Tanner was. He got the Sun Belt Pitcher of the Week award as well as the National Player of the Week award, and it's really the last. If you go back to the April 23rd game at Coastal, Eagles have hit 18 home runs going back to that. And so the bats have starting to come alive, other than the top, 3 with Edsel, Dickerson, and Wilkes, starting to get some pop in the bottom part of the order as well. And so, yeah, it seems like the offense has kind of made a turn. Some of that, I think, was, Arkansas State. But Eagles got some production even Tuesday night. Nick Monastery continues to shine at second base. He had a grand slam Tuesday night against Tulane. And so it seems like they've begun to find a stride here with a 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, 10-5 win on Tuesday night to win their 3rd straight midweek game. And again, we pointed to the fact that had been a tough spot. So fast forwarding, and I guess we need to do this in a couple of ways. Remaining schedule: South Alabama 3 games at home this weekend, no midweek games. 3 games at ULM. No midweek games, and then 3 games at home against Louisiana. So 9 left in the regular season. You got the Jags and the Warhawks and the Raging Cajuns. And Southern Miss needs to do what, Luke, in your mind, over the course of the final 9 games to, I guess the question is to play themselves in a position to still potentially host.
Yeah, you feel like if they win 7 or 8. So you would think if you can win a series this weekend. South Alabama's a team. They won their last 5 series. It's kind of a tale of 2 series for them. And so Eagles, would love to sweep, but if you get 2 out of 3, you feel like you'll sweep at Monroe next week. And then it sets up with how many, wins you can get against Louisiana. So if you were to, win 3 or 4 games in the tournament and maybe get to 41, you feel good, possibly about your chances. Do you face Coastal Carolina? Do you beat them in the tournament? But they're going to have to. I think they're going to have to win 7 or 8 to even put themselves in a chance with what happens in Montgomery.
All right. So, if we look at this a different way, where it's not, hey, you're trying to win a certain number of games to host. I can't help but wonder if there is a certain number of wins combined with RPI that makes Southern Miss a strong enough 2 seed that they don't get sent to Baton Rouge.
What's frustrating is it's just like the NCAA sometimes will, make people like cross country, road warriors, and then teams, it seems in our what we've seen the last 5 years, if you're going to be a 2 seed, you're pretty much pegged. State came in 2017, LSU came last year to Hattiesburg. But when the Eagles go on the road, where has it been? It's typically Fayetteville, Baton Rouge, or they've been to Tallahassee. I would, like to see,
or Oxford. What have they been? 3 times, 4 times to Oxford?
Obviously, with Oxford, yeah. It just seems as if you're a pretty good, they don't take into account how good the 2 seed is. They'll just ship them, somewhere within that mileage radius. So it will be unique with if Southern Miss ends up a 2 seed with Starkville and Oxford out of the picture. Could they go to a Gainesville or something like that? I would hate to see Southern Miss with the RPI, especially if they get over the 40 wins, to end up as the Baton Rouge 2 seed.
Yeah, because you want to avoid Paul Skeens. But it's twofold, right? Yes, you want to avoid Skeens. He's the best pitcher in college baseball. But that LSU lineup in that ballpark in the postseason is as scary as any opponent you could face in the postseason.
I agree, and it's going to be very hard no matter who ends up in their regional. So, if you look at it also, we've been honest about this on the Eagle Hour. Two of those guys on the selection committee that determine the regionals, have Southern Miss ties. Will McGillis, his dad's on there, and then Artigue's down at Southeastern. His son is on the Southern Miss roster. What I'm getting at is that there will be people, I think, that will not want to repeat a regional from last year all over again.
Yeah, it's altogether possible. So you talked about South Alabama. They're 11-10 in the Sun Belt, but you mentioned winners of 5 of their last 5 series. So 10 of those 11 wins have come in the last 5 weeks after a slow start to league play. What's been different for South Al?
So, was talking to Cliff Russell today on the Eagle Hour. He's a Southern Miss analyst, and for the ESPN broadcast, they were talking to Coach Calvey this week. They had a lot of JUCO arms, and just kind of a lot of settling in. There wasn't much chemistry early on, and they've kind of turned the corner. They got Jeremy Lee back, who's their Sunday starter. He was a freshman All-American a few years back. They've got some pieces out of the bullpen, and they just really have come together, as a team. And you talk about how hungry South Alabama will be coming in. So the Sun Belt's one of those conferences, the bottom 4 don't make it. So just the top 10 do. And South Alabama right now is 11-10. Tied for that, I think, with 5 other teams. Sun Belt baseball is like Sun Belt basketball. It's just a logjam. So if somebody at the bottom were to get a couple wins and South Alabama were to sweep or to lose 2 or 3 from Southern Miss, they would probably put themselves back into that on the borderline, and they still got to play Coastal. So, they've been fighting for their life for several weeks, trying to get off the bottom to even make the conference tournament. And so, they'll be hungry. So you put that with a combination of kind of finding their stride as a team. Just so many, I think they had so much roster turnover. Plus, their backs have been against the wall, and that's just allowed them to really play well.
You think the Sun Belt's a 2-bid league? You think it's Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss, and then the only way there's a third is if somebody else wins the conference tournament?
I mean, Troy's got an RPI. They lost 2 out of 3 last weekend, but they're hovering. What are they, 33 today, maybe? So I do think that it can be a 3-bid league. Some of the projections have Texas State kind of on the line. 4 will be really hard. Troy's RPI is 32 today.
Okay,
but I think it's a. I mean, that'd be crazy, wouldn't it, to have a really good 2 seed. If Southern Miss got back in the hosting conversation, and to have a regional either in Conway or Hattiesburg, and to be a 2-seed league, 2-bid league.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you look at Texas State 30-16 overall. They're 12-9 in the league, and Troy, to your point, I mean, to me, the conference record is the problem for Troy. I mean, it's 11-10. I guess the RPI maybe matters more than that, but it feels like they're going to have to win some games down the stretch. Game times this weekend. 6 o'clock. Yeah, 6, 2, and 1.
But they might change. If anybody's looked at the weather forecast for Hattiesburg, it's supposed to be rainy tomorrow, maybe clears later on. And I'm just looking at the weather forecast, nothing official, obviously. They may have to play later on Saturday just to kind of avoid some weather.
Okay. Well, we'll certainly keep an eye out for that as we roll into the weekend. Luke, always good to catch up. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Richard. Have a good